you're only familiar with Ridley through the Super Smash Bros. Games, you may think he is this wild beast who acts out of animalistic urges like a feral dog. Well, I'm sorry to say that you're wrong. Not only is Ridley's level of sentience way past any animal I know, as evidenced by for example truly sadistic behavior, he also has an actual job. While I can't exactly picture Ridley working a 9 to 5 or having weekly conference calls with Kraid, he's a high-ranking member of the Space Pirates, meaning he has at least some sense of agency over his subordinates and the wild plans of the organization. All in all, Ridley is the kind of villain Nintendo only rarely introduces, with a twisted personality and history that's a good several shades darker than anything Bowser or Ganon have ever done. This is the story of Ridley, Nintendo's darkest villain. I would love to tell you all about Ridley's childhood and his time at Space College, but not a whole lot is known about his life before joining the Space Pirates. The manual of the original Metroid refers to Samus, the setting of the game, as his home planet, but this information hasn't resurfaced in almost 30 years, so it's not sure whether that is still meant to be taken as the truth. However, the wildly popular Metroid Other M does provide us with a little insight into Ridley's early life. I'll save you the details for later in the timeline, but this game features a clone of Ridley, who we watch grow from a baby form to a full adult of his species. This baby form is nicknamed Lil Birdie, and kept as a pet by the scientists that created him. It doesn't take long for Ridley's violent tendencies to rear their ugly head however, as he tricks a lab worker by playing dead in his cage, before killing the researcher and setting himself free. Later on, when Samus arrives on the ship to investigate, it's shown his cunningness was there from the start as well, as Lil Birdie uses his screams to provoke the wildlife into attacking Samus. Over time, this clone continues to grow, giving us a peek at Ridley's adolescent stage. This form is called Mysterious Creature, and clearly combines design elements from both Lil Birdie and the adult Ridley we all know. Interesting to note here, from a biological standpoint, is that apparently Ridley evolves in a way where it breaks free from its former husk, as if it were a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. Eventually, Ridley's clone reaches its full adult form and fights Samus in Pyrosphere. Upon seeing him, Samus has a panic attack, taking her back to the first time the two ever met, when she was only a young child. This moment is, chronologically speaking, Ridley's first appearance in Samus' life, and cemented him as her lifelong nemesis. It's a day like any other on K2L, one of the only planets in the Metroid series to feature human life. Among the residents of the colony are a 3-year-old Samus and her parents, known in the Metroid manga that depicts these events in great detail as Rodney and Virginia. While the canon status of the manga is dubious at best, it has been confirmed through Metroid Fusion's hidden child mode ending that the events did happen, albeit maybe not exactly as shown in the manga. Anyway, things take a turn for the worst as the human colony is attacked by the space pirates under the leadership of Ridley. He himself strikes Samus, her mother, with a plasma beam, killing her, while her father sacrifices himself to stop the pirates' assault. Young Samus is not added to the list of victims, as we know, because she is saved by the Chozo, a race of birds who raise her and train her into the warrior we know her as today. Although, that wasn't exactly part of Ridley's plan. He was about to completely obliterate child Samus from point-blank range instead of her mother. He only missed because she jumped in the way. As if this all didn't show Ridley's dark side enough, the manga actually goes one step further. When he and Samus encounter one another again later on, he taunts her by saying he ate the bodies of his human victims, Samus her mother included. I told you he was sadistic. And sentient, because as shown here, Ridley is capable of speech, something we're actually yet to see in any of the games. The next time Samus and Ridley cross paths is in the first Metroid game, which is in both the real world and the Metroid timeline the starting point. Samus has been sent on a mission to the planet Zebes, where she is tasked with fighting the space pirates and their leader, Mother Brain. While she is working her way through the planet, Ridley is fighting a space battle against her superior Adam Malkovich and the Galactic Federation army, and returns to his lair just in time to fight Samus. Of course, he is defeated and engulfed in flames, suffering a fate unknown. Later, during the same mission, Samus encounters a robotic replica made by Ridley himself, called Mega Ridley. He never had the chance to complete it however, as the robot is unable to fly like the real Ridley can and moves slowly. Samus again defeats it, which causes the ship to start its self-destruction protocol, forcing her to flee. This could have been the end for Ridley, but as Mega Ridley shows, he has an affinity for technology, and it's exactly that would end up saving him. After space pirate researchers recoup his injured body, they transport him to a ship known as the frigate Orpheon, where they begin reconstructing him using bionic implants. This form becomes known as Meta Ridley, and is how he appears in the Metroid Prime series. While the construction of Meta Ridley continues elsewhere on the ship, Samus barges in after answering a distress call. She finds the ship destroyed and ends up fighting an imprisoned parasite queen, which falls into the ship's reactor and causes the entire Orpheum to crash down towards the nearby planet Talon 4. During all this, Meta Ridley escapes and safely descends down to the planet below, forcing Samus to give chase. And yes, that does mean Meta Ridley flies by flapping his wings through space. So not only does he apparently not need oxygen, he can also move by pushing air where there is no air. Perhaps the metallic enhancements on his wings allow for him to do so? It's never explained. Anyway, Meta Ridley flies to Talon 4, which has become overrun with a poisonous substance known as Phazon, which the space pirates mine to use for experiments. Phazon is capable of corrupting anything affected by it, as is evidenced by the poisoned wildlife on Talon 4. Samus tracks the source to the impact crater, which is located under the artifact temple. Just as she is about to activate the Chozo statues and head into the crater, Meta Ridley swoops down and destroys the statues. The two fight, and after Samus has sufficiently weakened Meta Ridley, the spirits of the Chozo finish the job with laser beams, sending him crashing down into the abyss below. But of course, this is not his end. Through unknown means, Meta Ridley ends up back in the space pirates' hands, who transport him to their new base of operations, the planet of Urtragus. However, the planet ends up overtaken by Dark Samus, a being of pure Phazon made in the image of Samus's power suit. She corrupts the entire planet into serving her, Meta Ridley included. She then appoints him as leader for the invasion of Norion, a planet that houses an important military base for the Galactic Federation, and this is where he and Samus meet again. It's also where we get to see his new appearance for this game, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, which is notably different. Not only is his body covered in a slight blue hue as a result of exposure to Phazon, his wings are also visibly damaged from the events of the first Metroid Prime. This leads to a battle where Ridley is quite easily bested by Samus, despite the fact they were free-falling at the time. While Samus is saved by fellow bounty hunter Rundus, Meta Ridley continues his descent, which only injures him further. Fortunately for him, Phazon can heal all injuries, and so Meta Ridley is injected with even more of the poisonous substance, turning him into a new form known as Omega Ridley. Way more powerful, but also way more corrupted, Omega Ridley is tasked with guarding the Leviathan Seed, which Samus needs to destroy in order to save the planet of Urtragus. And so they battle once more, eventually ending with Omega Ridley exploding into a cloud of Phazon. And while that would spell the end for many others, Ridley's body must be such a mess at this point that even exploding into pure gas is nothing more than a mere scratch to him. And so he returns thanks to the great work of Samus Aran. After all, she destroyed Phase, the sentient planet that Phazon hails from, and thereby freed every being previously controlled by the substance, Ridley included. While his metallic implants remained, as time passed, more flesh also recovered, turning Ridley into a half-flesh, half-mechanic being known as Proteus Ridley. This appearance is his most recent one, hailing from 2017's Metroid Samus Returns. While this game is a remake of Metroid 2, The Return of Samus, Proteus Ridley is a new addition that didn't appear in the original. In this newer version of the story, he rejoins the space pirates as they hunt for the last remaining Metroids, the titular parasites of the series. He ends up going to the planet SR-388, where he finds all the Metroids already eradicated except for one baby, who is in the hands of Samus. And so, emerging from an ominous thunderstorm, Ridley confronts Samus once more during an attempt to steal the baby Metroid. Unlike previous battles, however, Ridley was actually on the winning hand this time around, and was seconds away from finishing Samus off, before the baby Metroid comes to her rescue by latching onto his head. This causes Ridley to let go of Samus and the fight to resume, which eventually ends with his mechanical parts overloading and him collapsing to the ground. Later, during the credits of the game, we see a shot where a Hornode, a frog-like enemy, is seen chomping down on one of Ridley's mechanical claws. Shortly after, it is attacked by an X-Parasite, which is a shape-shifting being that can assimilate the DNA of other life forms. They are native to the planet and were previously the prey of the Metroids, but now that they have been eradicated, their population can grow again. Trust me, this will become relevant later. But first, we continue to follow Ridley's steps. As the ending of Samus Returns already alluded to, he has managed to recover himself following his defeat and was even able to return to a completely organic state without any mechanical implants whatsoever. In this form, he retraces Samus' steps following her successful saving with the baby Metroid, which she brought to the Ceres space colony for further research. Ridley does what he does best and invades the ship, massacring everyone on board. Samus hurries to the colony and attempts to stop him, but she can prevent Ridley from escaping with the baby Metroid to the place it all started, planet Zebes. There, the space pirates, under the renewed leadership of Mother Brain, have built an underground base which makes for Samus' next destination. In the depths of Norfair, she and Ridley face off once more in a battle that ends with his body exploding into 1,000 pieces. Samus continues her mission and defeats Mother Brain thanks to the heroic sacrifice of the baby Metroid. She manages to narrowly escape as the entire planet is blown up, Ridley's remains included. And even for someone as resilient as Ridley, there's no coming back from that. And while these are, canonically, Ridley's final moments, his spirit continues to haunt Samus. The Galactic Federation manages to obtain some of Ridley's DNA from Samus's power suit following this adventure, and uses it to reconstruct him, which leads to the birth of the aforementioned little birdie. However, while this clone does appear to share some of Ridley's memories, as seen in his hatred for Samus, he is not the same Ridley. Nothing makes that more obvious than his mortality, as the clone doesn't even make it to the end of Other M before being killed by the Queen Metroid, leaving behind nothing but a lifeless husk. This husk ends up being taken away by the Galactic Federation and is put on ice, stored in the Biologic Space Laboratories research station. Later on, this spaceship becomes the setting for Metroid Fusion, where the entire place becomes overrun with X-parasites, which I told you would be relevant. And of course, they see Ridley's lifeless corpse as the perfect creature to assimilate, leading to a being known as Neo Ridley, a mutated copy of the real deal. This form of him is, ironically enough, more similar to the Ridley portrayed in Smash Bros, being a wild, feral beast that shows little sign of sentience. As is the fate of a Nintendo villain, no matter how dark and twisted, Neo Ridley is also defeated, marking his final chronological appearance in any form in the Metroid timeline. However, since Metroid Dread picks up where Fusion left off, it is possible for Ridley to return in future games, albeit most likely in the form of a clone, copy, robot, or other imitation. Perhaps a future game can shed light on the one big mystery that remains surrounding his character, his motivations. Is Ridley truly so sadistic, so bloodthirsty and power-hungry that he would become Nintendo's deadliest villain without any ulterior motive? Currently, the answer is a resounding yes. The true Ridley may have died on Zebes, but he leaves a trail of blood behind. Thank you for watching.